system at the present time. They've even fallen back in the Financial Times, I have it here, on the comfort blanket of Marxism, and particularly of Lenin. They've actually tried to comfort themselves by quoting Lenin's famous statement that capitalism always has a way out. So they say, if Lenin says it, must be true. But they forget one little detail. The quote was not completed. Lenin said, there's always a way out for capitalism. You cannot automatically expect this system to disappear from the scene of history. That's the task of the working class. But there's always a way out of capitalism on the bones of the working class, on the destruction of their organisations and rights, on the cutting of their living standards. That's the reality of the era that we're going into of capitalism itself. And we agree with the Italian youth when they, and the workers of Italy when they march, not the slogans of the leadership, unfortunately. We're not going to pay for your crisis. This is your crisis, you pay, we won't. That's going to be our watchword in this situation. That is not the view of the trade union leaders, unfortunately. Look at Royal Mail. I don't need to spell out at this meeting today the blatant character of Mandelson's attack, dressed up. If you oppose him, you're playing into the hands of the Tories have openly declared. If Mandelson's attacks on the Royal Mail go through, that gives us then the basis to carry through the complete nationalisation of Royal Mail when we come to power. And Billy Hayes cuts an absolutely pathetic figure in relation to this situation when he's appeared on the television. He spoke at a meeting of the Scottish Labour Party conference this week, and in the course of that meeting, one of our comrades, Gary Clark, got in and said to him, you should be out of the Labour Party. Why do we give them money to this party and this government that's carrying through attacks on our living standards? And his argument was, you should stay in and fight. Well, what good has it done the UCW members? As a matter of fact, in the United Union, Derek Simpson went a step further. At the Women's Conference this week, he actually, conscious of what we're doing in the movement, he made a statement and he said, well, those people who are arguing for a new mass workers' party, it'll take 1,000 years before that develops. One of our comrades had the wit to stand up and say, it'll take you 2,000 working years to change the Labour Party. The other trade union leaders are hiding in this situation. I mean, Tony Woodley goes along to the Unite Broad Left meeting and very splendidly talks about nationalisation and not a peep when it comes to the car industry at the present time. Nationalisation is popular if it's put forward in the right way, not in a state capitalist fashion. It's linked, by the way, to the long-term guarantee of jobs. As a matter of fact, both in relation to nationalisation and also in relation to socialism, the right wing in America, the Republicans are doing our job. You have the incredible position where Obama is being accused of being a socialist, just as Roosevelt was, by the way. And the next candidate in the last presidential elections, Huckabee, actually makes the following point. He says, Lenin and Stalin would love this stuff. That is the disguised state investment in the industry. One of them goes a lot further and says, I have a cutting here, and says, well, the American people are ideologically opposed to any idea of state intervention at the present time. But the Republicans are actually doing our job by calling this socialism, and if we can have the position, if you're a car worker being made unemployed, like in Lordstown, in Ohio, and there's a big flap on, we want the state to intervene. If then the Republicans say, this is socialism, it'll be like the farmers in the US. In the 1970s, when the Republicans came out against farm subsidies, and the reaction of the farmers was, well, if this is socialism, maybe I'm a socialist. Yeah. And that will be the trend that will develop in America in the period that we're going into. This crisis will drag on. There might be a temporary flaw. There might be an upswing at a certain stage. It won't develop in a straight line. But even in that upswing, it will leave behind rock pools of mass unemployment and of poverty. In other words, we will not return to the system of the past. This means we can argue very forcefully for a democratic socialist alternative. for an alternative to the chaos of capitalism. And part of that, by the way, is of course arguing for a socialist and a revolutionary approach towards the environment. One of the most important points in the Stern report was when Stern said the environmental catastrophe today is the greatest failure of the market system. If that's the case, what is the alternative? Socialism is posed in this situation. The crisis and events which follow will change the political map of Britain. This crisis is generalising the crisis now to the whole of Britain. In the 1930s, there was an escape route for workers, for instance, in the car industry in the Midlands, emigrating abroad. Where can you emigrate now? Where can the Irish go now to escape the endemic and legendary poverty of Ireland? The whole of the world is now encompassed by this crisis. The working class needs to take to the road of struggle. Lindsay demonstrates that in a marvellous fashion. Really, and what it demonstrates above all is that only this party is capable of intervening when the working class moves in a complicated situation and separating out what was essential from the inessential. The SWP just lighted on British jobs for British workers that was raised by Brown, let's remember, at a Labour Party conference in an attempt to outflank the BNP. They saw that as the main trend, whereas we saw this as a struggle against the race to the bottom of workers who were looking for a way. Our intervention meant that that was pushed aside. Marvellous, as Keith explained, linking up with our Italian section, they even printed our leaflets, some of these organisations, on their own site, saying this is the authentic voice of the working class. It is, but it's the authentic voice of the Socialist Party and the Committee for the Workers' International as well. We also managed to have a victory in which an element of workers' control has been enshrined. An element, we don't exaggerate that. We didn't say this strike would eliminate racism, would eliminate nationalism, or even, on the part of some workers, British jobs for British workers. But it was a mighty blow against that idea. Not in theory, but in action by the movement of the working class. That strike also demonstrated the importance of Marxism, of a comrade, a very good comrade, who hadn't been active, accidentally meeting Alistair Tice in a way on the picket line. But with our ideas, with his training in the past, with the method of this organisation, managed to have a marvellous intervention in that strike. That's a portent of what we can do in other battles that will develop in the future. It's not unexpected that the working class will have these kind of ideas with nationalism. It doesn't mean to say that nationalism and racism have been eliminated. On the contrary, as we see by the threat from the BNP, it's still there. But isn't it striking that according to the Financial Times, they've played up, by the way, the British jobs for British workers, that according to the Financial Times, not one striker joined the BNP. Others in Lincolnshire, they said, joined the BNP. But not one striker in Lindsay, for what they reported, has joined the BNP. In other words, in action we show that the ideas of Marxism, of the way to struggle, of linking the struggle to workers, of not allowing any division to enter the ranks of the working class at the next stage. So therefore, this movement, which will be of a defensive character, is extremely crucial for the working class in the next period. What is the perspective for the Labour Party? If you look at the polls, Labour is doomed in the next election. I would add one proviso, however. The situation in Britain, the political situation, is extremely volatile. Brown was popular only 6 months ago. Now he's 16% behind in the polls, with a 90 majority for the Tories being proposed. It's quite clear that the government is trying to engineer a small boom. There's even talk in the press in the last couple of days that